Is there anybody here? Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, nice to see you. Hi, Monk of Destiny. All right, cool. Let me see here. Hey, Monk of Destiny, I am doing a special lecture for a class. What's the class called? Sound and Interactive Media. That sounds pretty cool. So, I've got a track here that I'm going to show off a little. Let me fix some things here. Okay. All right, sounds good. Let's do it. Sure. All right. So, all right, cool. I've got this track here from Darkside Detective. This is finished, but I can talk about it a little bit. Let me make sure that you can hear it here. Okay, yeah, looks like it's all working. Let's just go through the whole track. This is it's pretty short, so I don't think it'll take too long. It's a little bit less than 3 minutes. So this track plays. Oh, Darkside Detective is a point-and-click adventure game in the style of like, say, Monkey Island. It even has like a retro look. Maybe I can pull up some screenshots here that I have. No, that's not it. No, it is that. That is it. So like, it looks like this, which is a really cool look. And my direction for the music, it's a comedy game, first of all. Yeah, a little bit like Thimbleweed Park. Anyway, oh well, this is particularly relevant because this picture is from the scene that you're going to hear the music from. So yeah, the art is really cool. That's from the game company's called Spooky Doorway. So it's an indie team in Dublin, Ireland, and they're really cool people. And they've been working on this for a couple of years. But anyway, so there's a scene where you go to a museum and there's a mummy, and I don't know a whole lot about the scene yet. I haven't played it. I've only had like general feel and like the art and everything. But anyway, so I have this track. Let's listen to it once, and then I'll talk about like what my decisions were when I was making it. So okay, here we go. Okay. Okay, so now you've heard it. The game is like a... It's just like a comedy game. It's very, very self-aware and meta, and like... It doesn't take itself very seriously at all. But I keep the music relatively straight-faced for the atmosphere, to especially go along with like such the nice like colorful art. So the direction for it was like for the music from the development team. It was sort of like wanted to sound like it was a 80s John Carpenter like horror movie. So I have this very like have to make it sound very 80s. Anyway, yeah, I can answer questions. I have a few planned things to talk about with this, but let's do questions. Here you can see this sort of loop here. Everything's sort of based on this one loop. Okay, so Joel asks, how do you choose the instrumental palette, and where are the instruments from? So part of the choosing process came early on when I first started making the soundtrack. So the way I do this a lot is like when I start a soundtrack, I'll make a couple of tracks to begin with. Like I usually try to do title screen music first, because I always think of the title screen music as like your introduction to the sound of the game, and it's sort of representing the game. Or I'll do like what I think of as like trailer music or something very exciting, and that's sort of like, even if it doesn't get used as the trailer or whatever, it's like good to set the tone. So I'll make that and maybe a couple other tracks that I just have like in my mind of what I want to do. And then I take a lot of the instruments I made from there and like turn it into like a sort of library that I then pull from later for later tracks. So most of this though I think is Omnisphere. Let's see here. Yeah, Omnisphere for a lot of the instruments, and probably FM8. So it's mostly synthesizers. Oh, this is Absinthe. This great bass line is definitely Omnisphere. Yeah. So it gives you a nice like 80s sound. A lot of these are just presets that I found and then modified to suit like what I was doing. That's usually my method. Like I don't build a lot of stuff from scratch. I occasionally do it. I will occasionally build from like simple waveforms and then like build out from there. But usually I just pick presets and then sort of like modify them, add effects, and do whatever else I want. To make it my own. I find that to be much faster than trying to build everything from scratch. So I hope that answered your question. I do just about everything in software except when I want to bust out my guitar and I play that for something. So I hope that answered your question. Can do another question if you like. Oh, okay, yeah. So the impetus of this was just this one loop. Like I started out with this sort of this very simple the song's in 3/4 time, and I started with this really simple loop. It just does that over and over again. In fact, it does that for quite a while, as you can see here. Just forever. But you can tell it changes. So the idea was like, how do I make this one loop like go through the whole thing? It doesn't quite go through the whole song. You see it stops here and something else takes over. But it's like, how do you have this one loop but keep it interesting? And so one thing is I alter it by moving the mod wheel around to change like the sound of it. Got some problems here. Hang on. Live. Yeah, so you can, like, I have the mod wheel moving around. So, and you can see illustrated here in the track itself as a, like, my mod wheel movement. Like, I started out with it like really quiet and then have it like open up and then move around a bit. So that was like one way of making the loop kind of interesting and different. And then we add, like, we just layer on other instruments, and then like we add a bass line here. So we have like a new instrument that comes in here. And then, I'll stop it here. This bass line, the bass instrument is one that shows up a lot in Darkside Detective. So when this bass line comes in, it gives you a sense of familiarity and reminds you of the game that you're playing and like everything that came before. It keeps you in the space of Darkside Detective and in the story. And again, we're still doing the same loop, it's still playing constantly. It could get really annoying, but I think, at least I hope, it's not annoying. And then we have another instrument playing the same part. You see, it's the exact same arpeggio, but it's played by these like very 80s sounding bells. Again, trying to get into that Darkside feel that is established in previous tracks. This is actually pretty late in the game, this museum part. So you as the player have heard a lot of these instruments playing other parts already in different tracks. So now, I'll go back a little bit here. So you can hear the other bells playing the same part. And that adds some variety to it. And you can see also, once these come in, I've turned down the part of the original one here with the mod wheel to like close it up a little, and it's a little more muffled. So it allows the bell part to be more prominent. And then another melody plays from a different synthesizer here. And then I'll move ahead a little bit, and then we have yet another instrument plays the same thing, another very 80s sounding bell. So we have this nice layering of like 3 different instruments playing the same part. I'll let you hear each one individually. So you have the newest one, and then this one, and then this. They're all playing the same part, but it sounds really cool. And then finally, because there's no way you can stand to listen to that one loop over and over again, it changes a little right here. The melody actually does something different, as you can see here. It breaks apart and moves around a bit. So then these instruments drop out, and we just do the loop with this the newest part, this 80s bells thing here. And then the loop finally stops at about 144, looks like. And then we have this, it's sort of like a bridge. And I've added a drum part, a very simple drum part, but it sounds kind of cool. And then the loop comes back, but it is now a 5th Lowered or raised? A to E. I guess you could say it's either one. Anyway, so we've changed it by a fifth, and so when you get to this part, and we've added a brand new instrument that you haven't heard at all, which is a theremin. So we go here. Same loop, but it's a fifth raised. Yeah, it's a fifth raised. I'm terrible at theory. And then, the last thing I do, a way to tie it into the rest of the soundtrack is this part here. I'm soloing it so you can hear it here. That is a modified version of what I consider to be sort of the Darkside detective theme. It shows up in a lot of different tracks, including like the title music and everything. As well as this part here. So those two bits like sort of tie it into the greater soundtrack even more. So even though it's its own piece, it also has elements from other parts of the soundtrack to give it sort of a cohesive feeling. But yeah, that's sort of how I built an entire track around one sort of simple loop. I don't always write this way, but in this case it worked out really, really well. So yeah, hey, thanks. I'm glad you liked it. So let me know if you have any questions on this. And what's nice is like when it loops, because it's going to loop, right? Because you're playing an adventure game. You'll be in the same spot a lot as you explore the area and try to figure things out. With the fifth change, where it moves up a fifth, it makes for a nice transition when it loops too, because you have like, hang on. Right, and then as soon as it loops and goes back to the beginning, it sounds like it's in a new place. Because again, it's going down a fifth. So it's very easy to like loop something and have it feel like tired when it loops for the first time. So like having that nice change in fifths like feels like a switch up even if it's just starting over. Yeah, changing things by a fifth is like is one of my like secret like cheat things. Like it's a way to get a lot of mileage out of stuff. It's a great transition. It works super well. All right. Megan asks, maybe less specifically about this piece, but how do you choose harmonic material? I'm not sure what you mean by harmonic material. You'll have to explain a little further. Sorry. We also have some little flourishes in this, like, oh yeah, chords and progressions and such. Okay, that's what I thought you meant, but I wasn't sure because, again, I'm terrible in music theory. Sometimes I will write chords with my guitar, or chord progression, I mean. Like, I'll make a chord progression on my guitar based on what chords that I know already. I have a neat little tool. Let's see if my iPad is working. Nope, the battery's dead. Well, I have this iPad here on my desk, and on it I have a a program called Polychord. I'll write it out in the chat here so you can do a search for it. Polychord. And that is an app that you pick a key signature, you pick like a scale, and it will show you a whole bunch of chords that like fall into that scale, and then like related chords, and you can like tap them and you'll hear the chord played. And I will oftentimes just sit there and play around with the chords until I find something cool that I like. I wrote the track NG Battle or NG Explorer and NG Battle. The NG track from FTL was written using that app, or like the original chord progression. Or sometimes I'll just come up with a chord progression on piano. Like that's probably like my most common thing, is I'll just sit at the piano and like mess around with chords, or I'll load up a particularly cool instrument, or like an arpeggiated instrument that's like, you know, just playing when you hit chords, like it'll make like a cool pattern or whatever, and I'll just mess around with that. And like if I find a chord that I like, I'll either like a chord progression that I like, I will like write it down, or I'll just record it right there and then save it in a separate file, like a scraps file or something. That's usually how I do it, and I use my knowledge of music theory to like guide me, and like my own intuition about what sounds good and what sounds appropriate. Gravity Ghost had a lot of major chords and a lot of sevenths. FTL and Darkside Detective have a lot of minor chords. Trying to think of what else. Starcrawlers had a lot of minor chords. But yeah, that's sort of like, I have a lot of different methods. Guitar is my newest thing that I like making chords with that. Do you have any other questions? See if I can find any other cool things here. Sure thing. I'm actually a pretty terrible keyboard player. Would you show us one more Darkside Detective piece? Sure. Let me see what else I got. Let me look through my list of tracks here. What would be good? Ooh, I've got a really fun one that I love. So there's a great scene. Don't save. There's a great scene in Darkside Detective where you're in a library and you accidentally, or someone accidentally summons the ghosts of famous like literary authors. And so like Edgar Allan Poe's ghost shows up, and like Mary Shelley, a few other ones, and you sort of interact with them and talk with them, and like you talk with them about like Twilight, like the Twilight books. It's in the form of like a parody of Twilight, but it's ridiculous, as you can imagine, but it's really fun. And I knew that it had to have like something really special for it, like something really different, because I don't know, the literary thing was really inspiring. And let me see here. I guess this is it. It's been a while since I worked on this. Anyway, it's probably my favorite piece from Darkside. This will take forever to load because it's huge. But yeah, I really wanted to do something like sort of Danny Elfman inspired. So this is like a lot of different kinds of instruments, and this also includes some orchestral samples. So it should be pretty interesting. But it's very different style from like the rest of the soundtrack, which is very like 80s sounding. All right, is this it? No. Yeah, this is it. Okay, okay. So yeah, you summon all these ghosts, and you spend the rest of this time in the library just wandering around and talking with them. And so here we go. Can you hear it? Oh, whoops, I gotta set it up. I'm sorry, you can't hear it because I haven't set up the sound yet. Start. All right, here we go. Sorry. And you still can't hear it. Why is it not working? Did I have it wrong? I probably set it up wrong. Yep, I set it up wrong. Yep, and it was like, I bet Monk of Destiny knows exactly what I did wrong. Yeah, I set the audio output wrong. Okay. Finally. Thanks, Monk of Destiny. There we go. So yeah, that's the literary ghosts theme music, and I was pretty happy with how it came out. It was very, very fun to make. So it's like a fun combination of like the electronic elements that you're familiar with in Darkside, like this bass line, that thing, and like what else? I believe this one is used. Yeah, this is a really common instrument in Darkside. And I believe this one. I didn't label this one nearly as well as some of my other tracks. That one doesn't. Oh, sure, yeah. Okay, so is this the end of the Twitch portion? Should I end this stream? Oh, we got a bunch of people on here. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining this kind of impromptu live stream. But I'm going to end it here, and yeah, I'll try to put this on YouTube so we can have it, because it's kind of a cool discussion, I think. So yeah, thanks everybody for showing up for this special lecture thing, and I will be back tomorrow, hopefully. Anyway, thanks everybody, and stop.